Today, we are looking at the script for POV Falling Out of the Milky Way, which is an immersive narration that guides the audience on a visual and philosophical journey from Earth to the outer edges of the observable universe. Let's get right into how we can strengthen this material. Let's look closely at the section discussing the initial physical expansion into deeper space, because, establishing a smooth geographical progression is completely essential before analyzing the deeper meaning of the journey.
Yeah, the physical path is really the foundation. Like, if the audience's brain is working overtime just to figure out where they are, they won't have the cognitive bandwidth left to engage with those massive themes.
Exactly. So right now, the spatial progression in the writing is causing a bit of a physical problem. Now, as I trace the physical path, we start with a really beautiful grounded departure from Earth. The sun shrinks, we accelerate into interstellar space.
Right, it's a very strong opening.
It is, yeah. But then the script makes this massive leap. We are immediately introduced to the Andromeda Galaxy, which the text accurately notes is about 2.5 million light years away. And we spend some time there, but then the script scales all the way back down to look at the Milky Way shape and the nearby Large Magellanic Cloud, which is only 160,000 light years away.
Oh, wow, yeah, I see.
It feels a bit like zooming out on a map from your house, jumping straight to another continent, and then suddenly zooming back in to describe your home city's layout. It jolts the spatial awareness.
Is the connection between these locations fully established in the material, or is that an area to potentially bolster? The spatial progression of the journey occasionally disrupts the audience's expanding sense of scale. A journey like this relies heavily on compounding awe.
Right, because our minds need a ladder to climb out of our normal frame of reference.
Yes, exactly. Awe isn't just about beautiful adjectives, It's a physiological response to a sudden expansion of boundaries. When you look at a mountain, your brain is trying to reconcile your tiny size with the massive space. Now, multiply that by 1 trillion.
Yeah, it's almost too much to process.
It is. And if a writer doesn't hand the reader a stable ladder to scale that size, the numbers just become abstract statistics. So the weakness here is that by introducing the Andromeda Galaxy immediately after leaving the solar system, and then subsequently retreating to describe the Milky Way and the Large Magellanic Cloud, the script breaks its concentric outward movement.
It's that visual vertigo from a camera lens pulling focus too fast.
Exactly. That back and forth movement genuinely confuses the spatial geography and subtly blunts the awe of leaving our home galaxy. I mean, the listener's perspective is thrown millions of light years away before they've even grasped the edges of their own galaxy.
So, what does the fix look like? How do we map out that sequence?
Well, the suggestion is to reorder the cosmic landmarks to maintain a strict, intuitive outward trajectory. You want a progression that continuously scales up the viewer's perspective without retreating inward.
Oh, okay. So keep pushing out.
Yeah. For some concrete examples, group the Milky Way and its immediate satellite, the Large Magellanic Cloud, together before making that massive leap to Andromeda. So after the sun shrinks, reveal the Milky Way's 100,000 light-year spiral of light and shadow.
Oh, I like that. You anchor them at the edge of their own galaxy first.
Right. Note the Large Magellanic Cloud as a close companion, and then accelerate across the intergalactic void to introduce Andromeda and the broader local group. Make it clear that, these are just a few ways to structure the cosmic zoom, but the goal is continuous outward expansion.
That structural change alone makes the journey feel so much more intentional. And that actually brings us directly to how we traverse those distances. So a key theme running through this material seems to be time and the physical limits of distance. Early on, the script relies on very grounded, awe-inspiring physical realities, like the poignant fact about the sun's 8-minute light delay. But then deep into the script, we get this sudden admission that, quote, we're traveling faster than the speed of light. It's the only way to make this journey.
Ah, yeah.
And I have to question that choice. If we are in an ethereal, almost spiritual meditation on space and time, does introducing literal science fiction mechanics suddenly ground the piece too harshly?
That's fascinating. What are the potential limitations or counter-arguments to that idea? Because a reader could argue that acknowledging the physics is a nod of respect to the science the script clearly reveres.
I can see that, sure. The author obviously loves astronomy, but as a storytelling device, it feels like a tonal misstep. We don't need to pull back the curtain to explain the magic trick, right?
Right, yeah. The sudden, literal explanation of faster-than-light travel briefly interrupts the carefully cultivated poetic atmosphere of the piece.
Exactly.
Up until this point, the script relies on a really grounded meditation on actual physics and history. The weakness here is that stating the fictional mechanics of the journey so late and so literally punctures the ethereal atmosphere. It causes a slight tonal clash between grounded science communication and science fiction exposition.
Yeah, you've accidentally invited the logical side of the brain to start critiquing the poetry. They start asking, wait, faster than light? How does that work with relativity?
Right. You break the trance. So the suggestion would be to integrate the concept of breaking the laws of physics more organically into the philosophical theme. You want to establish the journey as a conceptual, conscious exploration rather than a literal physical flight in a spacecraft.
I love that approach. So how do we rewrite that exposition to smooth out the tone?
As an example, instead of using the literal phrase, "we're traveling faster than the speed of light," you could phrase it as a necessity of the mind. Something like, "To comprehend this scale, our minds must leave the speed of light behind."
Oh, wow. That completely changes the listener's relationship to the narration.
Yeah. Or alternatively, you could introduce the rule-breaking nature of the POV earlier in the script, like right when leaving the solar system. Frame it as a shift from physical reality to a grand cosmic vision.
Like, we travel at the speed of thought.
Exactly. And to mention, these are just a couple of possibilities to smooth out the tone and maintain the author's awe-inspiring intent.
That does a lot of heavy lifting for the pacing, too. You don't get bogged down in spacecraft logistics. And getting the audience into that state of active consciousness is really crucial because we eventually arrive at the final destination of the script.
The philosophical takeaway?
Yes. As I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that human squabbles over lines on maps, money, and pride are ultimately insignificant compared to the quiet, overflowing reality of 2 trillion galaxies. But I have to push back a bit. This heavily echoes Carl Sagan's brilliant pale blue dot, and while it's scientifically accurate, does relying on this familiar trope of cosmic nihilism actually shrink the emotional impact of this specific script? Instead of feeling inspired, does the audience just feel small?
Building on that point, what if we looked at it from the perspective of human consciousness as an integral participant in this vastness? The script's concluding philosophy relies on a familiar trope of cosmic insignificance, missing an opportunity to offer a more distinct, empowering final perspective.
Yeah. It's a very expected angle. We've heard it in almost every space documentary.
Right. And the weakness is that the realization that human conflicts are meaningless against the vastness of the universe is a well-worn angle. While emotionally resonant, it ends the journey on a slightly cliché, diminishing note. It tells the listener that they don't matter, which slightly contradicts the grand, majestic framing of the rest of the voyage.
It's almost a philosophical dead end. You reach the edge of the universe, and the only takeaway is, well, my daily life doesn't matter. It doesn't give them anything to carry back down to Earth.
Exactly. So my suggestion is to pivot the final reflection to emphasize the profound, empowering paradox of the human condition. We should highlight our unique role as the conscious observers of this vastness.
Oh, I see. So instead of the universe making us small, our ability to perceive it makes us vast? What does that actually look like on the page?
Well, for a concrete example, instead of solely laughing at our earthly problems, juxtapose our physical smallness with our immense capacity for wonder. You could add a closing thought that out of those 2 trillion silent galaxies, it is on this one tiny planet that the universe evolved the eyes to look back at itself.
Wait, I absolutely love that phrasing. The universe evolved eyes to look back at itself.
Yeah, shift the ending from "we are small and meaningless" to "we are small, yet we hold the entire universe in our minds." Of course, emphasize that these are just a few avenues for elevating the thematic takeaway while keeping the author's intent intact.
It perfectly resolves the journey. If the journey is fueled by the speed of thought, then arriving at a destination that celebrates human consciousness feels like the perfect climax.
The pieces all just click together.
They really do. Well, let's do a quick recap of the 3 actionable pieces of feedback we discussed today. First, reorder the spatial landmarks to create a continuous, intuitive outward expansion. Group the Milky Way and the Large Magellanic Cloud together before making the massive leap to Andromeda.
Right.
Second, soften the literal mention of faster-than-light travel by framing it as a philosophical or conceptual necessity, like the speed of thought. And third, elevate the final pale blue dot conclusion by focusing on the empowering paradox of human consciousness, rather than just our physical insignificance.
Fantastic points.
Truly. We warmly invite the author to revise their script based on these suggestions and submit their work back in again for further critique. We would absolutely love to read it.
We really would.
Thanks for tuning into this critique.